Just testing my audio, Mark.
Okay. Test 1, 2, 3.
Hello,
Hi, Elizabeth.
how are you, Mark? Hi, Jerry.
I'm doing well.
Good, good.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Wishing summer wasn't coming to an end, but
Yeah. Are we going to see the cat tonight?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
He's had an eye on me, so who knows?
Okay. It's kind of become a tradition.
I know.
Hello,
Hey, Dom.
Other dumb.
how are you all?
Good.
Doing
How are
well.
you?
Good. Just got off the pickleball courts, Mark, and ran home over here, and here I am.
What, the high school courts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put the lights on for us at 5 o'clock.
Oh, that's nice.
Mark, it looks like Carolyn and Francis are in the attendees instead of the panelists.
Okay. All right. How are you, Jerry?
Good, Dom.
Good. I mean,
You got a bit of a halo going there.
Got a bit of a what?
Halo.
Yes.
Oh. Let's see if we can correct that. How's that?
Oops.
That's,
Nice job, Don.
that's so good. Not so good.
Not good.
Don, you've cut,
Now it looks like you're in a cave.
you've got like a Halloween
I
theme
feel like
going
I'm
on
in
there.
a Let's try it again. If I point it a different direction, how's that?
Beautiful.
That's better.
There we
Very
go.
good.
That's a little better. Okay. Now all I need is to find the agenda and we can get it going. Is everybody here?
Yeah, let's
All
see. Fran is here,
Yeah,
but she's muted and no video.
okay. And we have a visitor, correct?
We have a, yes, we do.
Okay, so do we want to?
Carolyn. Yeah,
Did we
Carolyn
wanna-
Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, if we could move the agenda so that move
She
them
can
to
speak.
first and they can make their presentation and
Yeah,
this
that's
Fran.
Sorry, had to go get a plug. The thing was about to die on me, but I'm here. Hi.
That's all right. So we have a quorum for the first time in a couple of months. And we have a full agenda too, so.
Great, so let's call things to order. Let's call this meeting to order. And we basically just did roll call.
Just a reminder, Mark, are you recording and streaming?
Yeah, the recording light is
Okay.
flashing. Yeah.
And just the streaming as well?
Where is that on the
I
screen?
think that might be down on the bottom of your thing where it,
I have a mute, stop audio, screen share, pause, stop recording, raise hand. Oh, more? Nope. Oh, live on
Live
custom
stream?
live streaming services.
yep, if you just click that button, then you're done.
Ah. Okay. Now you guys.
And then it just opens another window, but you can just close that window.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. You have to hit go live first though, right? The bottom? Oh, no. Now it's telling me I got to fill in a bunch of fields.
I guess I can't see it myself, or I'd tell you, but you might just
Okay.
skip it then, if you've never done that before anyway. It would allow anybody to watch as we were doing this.
Oh, okay.
Streaming or
Yeah.
whatever.
If Mark presents his screen, Jerry, you might be able to direct him on what to do, because you could see it too. I'm not a Zoom proficient person myself.
Jerry,
Yeah,
can
yeah,
you see
I
this?
don't know what, you shouldn't be seeing that. So
Okay.
I would just close that. Oh, and you're on an Apple product too, so even better.
Looks like a nice gathering.
Yeah, I think let's skip it, Mark, and just,
Okay.
So somehow all I have see is Mark. And there's a picture of, looks like some kind of gathering or something. Is everybody there?
yep,
Yep.
Yep.
just stop share, Mark.
There we go.
Okay, can we call it to order?
Yeah.
Okay. So we basically did roll call. Let's approve the minutes. Is there any questions or concerns regarding the minutes? Sounds like we're moving along.
Nope,
Okay,
Dom, your name wasn't spelled correctly. That's the only
Okay.
correction.
all righty.
So these were the
Which-
June
which-
minutes, correct? We
Right.
can't count the July minutes?
There was no meeting in July and we didn't have a quorum for August or September.
Okay, it was, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember which month it was. It was August. Got it. Thanks.
August and September, yeah.
Okay,
So
so
does
we're going to adjust the minutes to read my name correctly. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
Okay, sounds good. So now are our visitors here, Mark?
They are, yes. Carolyn Wilson and Jerry, who serves on the gas since I think its inception, some 20 years ago.
Okay, well, welcome, folks, and you guys are on.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. I stopped by last month, but we couldn't have the meeting. So happy to be back. Been looking forward to it. Just before I get started, I do have a quick presentation I want to run through. Has anyone had a chance to look at that beforehand?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I can be super brief. Mark, how much time can I have?
How much time do you need?
Yeah, how much time do you need?
Probably not that long, but I want to be respectful to your schedule. So I will keep an eye on the time. If there's a number I should stick to.
All right, does 20 minutes sound reasonable or is that
Yes,
more than enough
absolutely.
time?
That's probably just plenty. If I probably won't even need that much.
Okay,
Okay. And Jerry, thank you so much for encouraging me to attend and including me in this. As you just heard, Jerry's been a very strong partner. One of my best members. I've been involved with gas for about the past 10 years. So, and Jerry predates me, of course. So very happy to be here and love working with the Parks and Rec Department. Can I share my screen?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
All right, thank you. Okay. One second here. Slideshow. Okay. All right. All right, well, I'm Carolyn Wilson, like I said, happy to be here. I run GASP and I work for Ledgelight Health District. So, as many of you know, GASP has been around for a while. We're going on 22 years, which is just mind blowing when I say it. Like I said, I've been around for 10. And I was so lucky to have come into a coalition that was very well run and already had a legacy of excellence, really, thanks to Michelle and the coalition and all the people who created GASP. So it's a privilege to serve in this capacity for sure. A little bit about GASP. We have a broad membership, and we have 12 sectors of the community that are represented on a good day. So, you know, Parks and Rec is an example of one of our youth serving organizations, but we draw from different parts of the community: parents, youth, educators, law enforcement, media, businesses, some people from the faith sector, people involved in healthcare, mental health care, and a little bit of everybody. So it really takes all hands and perspectives and expertise to make what we do work. I'm the staff person for GASP. Everybody else is a volunteer, although we are getting a youth peer advocate soon. And I'm happy to say, I did a little quick math, and over our 22 years, we're going on about $2 million of an investment in Groton, which is just mind blowing to me. But we've done some really great work, and I'm happy to say that the numbers are showing it. And we keep getting funded because we're doing great work. So humble brag, as they say, humble brag. So what I'm showing you now is a quick little example of some of the models that our work are centered around. The one you see behind me is our little strategic prevention framework, and it's a big deal. And it's the cornerstone of everything we do. So in prevention, we like method, we like theory, we like models to guide our work. It makes it easier to figure out if we're doing the right things. And the reason why I'm showing these models is to talk about the different things that they drive home, as you saw. So I've got the continuum of care model here on the bottom, which shows the connection between prevention, treatment, and recovery or maintenance. And then I have more of an ecological model over here, and that talks about the different domains of the individual, the family, and the community, right? So when we're thinking about public health and evidence-based prevention, we're looking at things that are sustainable, right? So I can go out and I can buy the greatest pamphlets and put up tons of billboards and do radio advertisements and you name it. I can spend a lot of money on a lot of great things that benefit the community. But what happens when the money goes away, right? So we're always looking for things that are going to last, that can affect a lot of people and last. So back to this continuum of care, the universal strategies that we typically do in primary prevention benefit everyone. So we're not just isolating certain people. We really want everybody to be impacted positively by what we do. And that's definitely in the background of our work. And then of course, emphasis on community, right? We're not really interested in just helping one person or one family. Perhaps in the clinical realms, they would do that, or more of an intervention or a treatment program. We're interested in broad brush, community level strategies and community level change. So this is a very busy slide, and this is really only to drive home more theory about why we do what we do. First three things are, you know, the softer targets that we use in prevention, still important, but they aren't considered the gold standard evidence-based environmental strategies, right? So I've highlighted the ones that are. So these are the real heavy hitters. And once again, these don't cost a lot of money, typically. They usually require a lot of capacity and they require a lot of support. So things that enhance or reduce barriers, change consequences, change physical design, or modify change policies. So one example of a project that we collaborated with Parks and Rec on last year was our park signage. And we talked about smoke and vape-free parks. And we put up signs in the different recreation areas to remind patrons of that. And we also had the sign translated in Spanish at the bottom. So no matter who you are, typically English and Spanish, probably the two top languages in Groton, people can read the sign and know. So that was a great partnership. And that's one example. What I'm really keenly interested in today is talking about modifying and changing policies. So these are, like I said, the heavy hitters, the gold standard. You know, you can do a lot with policy. It's hard because you have to have support and you have to have people in your court and you have to make your case. But when this works, it works really well. So here's a nice picture of our sign. And once again, diving a little bit deeper into environmental strategies, policy, and sustainability, right? So I've highlighted the key words. So language sensitivity, obviously we care a lot about that. Changing incentives and disincentives. Once you have policies, how are you going to enforce them? Are fines necessary? We all know the story of how taxes have been used to benefit public health. The cigarette tax, that's a more of a global look at that, but you get the point. And then we come down to our public policy actions. So some of you may be familiar with the social determinants of health and healthy places and how does policy fit in. I know this is something that the Parks and Recreation Department cares a lot about. And you sit on all sorts of very important committees having to do with improving the health of the community, health collaborative, and different work groups and coalitions. So we care a lot about this stuff. Remember, we were talking about how we want to impact the most people possible. We want community level population change. We want to do things that are going to help everybody, not just some people. This shouldn't matter where you live or where your income is. We want to do things that help you. So policies can be used to benefit the public health, obviously. We all know different examples of how that's happened on the state, local, and national level. Policy can be formal or informal, you know, state laws obviously being the more formal state and federal laws, but you can also have things on the community level that affect norms and behavior. And certainly, you know, the reason why we care about things like policy is that it can change community conditions, standards, structures, systems, policies, right? So the things that really matter. You hear a lot about systemic changes. And then of course, as I mentioned, a lot of these things don't really require any money, you know, so some prevention things, you know, you bring in a fancy curriculum that can cost money. Policy change typically doesn't cost anything, and it can really make a lot of difference. So again, just driving home these points, right? So large amounts of people, what are the decisions that can be made that affect most people and do the most good? Obviously, you always want to prioritize those. Place matters, obviously. You know, we know that sometimes based on where you live, it can affect, you know, your health and even your life expectancy, just because of where you live and what the conditions are, your income, things like that. When you start thinking about the social determinants of health, it can get a little scary and a little sad. We want to focus more on the positive of what we can do to better things, what we can do to protect people and, you know, send healthy messages. So I thought this was a nice little quote down here. The ability to shape individuals' behavior by structuring what is expected or permitted in certain or specific environments can reduce alcohol and other drug-related problems. So that sounds really good. We love stuff like that. And then of course, you know, policy, once again, cost effective, right? If you can get the support, it's really a great bang for your buck, for sure. And it's sustainable. So, you know, like I mentioned before with certain programs and things like that, you know, we can do a lot of great work, but what happens when your money runs out? GASP has a legacy of doing great work and having continuous funding. Will that end one day? Probably. and we're always reminded to plan for those things. So, you know, we care about things like policy because that can last. That can be a legacy. And of course, GASP has collaborated with the town of Groton in the past on some important local ordinances like the social host law, tobacco vending machines. We didn't quite get to tobacco 21 before the state changed the law, but certainly those are some great things that were accomplished before my time. And then, of course, you know, I absolutely adore working with Parks and Rec. I can't say enough good things about our partnership. Don't know what I would do without Parks and Rec. And, you know, in GASP, we're also always talking about what are our options? Like, what are we looking at? You know, what can we do to make some good changes? And what kind of things do we want to advocate for? And so some things that we've sort of batted around a little bit are, you know, the impact of drug and alcohol-free ordinances, limits on restrictions and advertising and sponsorship. So what happens if there's a community festival and there's a business in town that wants to have a table and you know, sample their product or sell their product? Is there anything on paper to say whether or not they can or can't? Is there a philosophy? Drug-free and alcohol-free events and facilities. So one of the things in GASP we've sort of had a side committee about is recovery-friendly Groton. Is this a friendly community for people who are in recovery, people who have recovered from a substance use disorder, you know, whatever stage of the game? Do we have things for them? Or is everything kind of like centered around alcohol? Things like that. Some community events, you know, I feel like everywhere you go, there's a beer tasting or a wine tasting, right? So are we being mindful of that? Is that something that we care about and we prioritize? And of course, this is an example of some of the communities in Connecticut who have passed ordinances for smoke-free recreation areas and smoke-free beaches and smoke-free parks. So a lot of communities are going in this direction. And of course, you know, there's all different things coming down the pike in terms of towns having to make decisions about things. So, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions and talk about this a little bit more if anybody has any questions.
Maybe I can just jump in here for a second, Carolyn, and just to let the commissioners know, part of what, you know, the ask here, I think Carolyn's looking for is to have the Parks and Rec Commission advocate for some type of policy change in our parks or in our programs, kind of like that last slide was pointing out. Right now, the park rules and regulations say that people cannot smoke and we've kind of included vaping in that on playgrounds or in areas where children are present. So if you are at Esker Point Beach and there aren't any children immediately around you, you can smoke. If you're at adult volleyball down at the beach, you can smoke. If you are at Sutton Park in a pavilion, you can smoke. You know, those kinds of things. And you know, from a Parks and Rec standpoint, one of the things that we see, one of our pillars is health and wellness, and you know, partnering with folks like GASP or the Health Improvement Collaborative or others, you know, we're looking to ensure that our public spaces are healthy for everybody. You know, it is damaging for children to see people smoking. You know, I mean, it becomes normative behavior, and people are more likely to do that. I think most people, you know, I personally rarely run into anybody who smokes anymore. You know, very few people that I know smoke, and you know, I don't think this is earth-shattering, and I think those people who do really take it into their personal habits to kind of make sure that they're doing it in a responsible way for the most part, I think. And as long as we have rules that say, hey, no smoking here in parks, and not just in playgrounds or not just, you know, where children are present, if we kind of expand that and just say our parks are healthy places, that would be a big step forward for us and a big step forward for the community in terms of health. And as Carolyn also noted, you know, we a long time ago made a decision to really kind of reinforce the concerts at Esker Point Beach in the summer. Those of you who went there 15, 20 years ago would have had a lot different experience than you do today. We market them as alcohol-free events, and we tell people, no, you can't drink here. This is a public place. I'm not saying people don't, put it in a water bottle or something and skirt the rules, but it is definitely not in anybody's face. It's definitely people who go there know that drinking, that's, if you're going to do it, you better be sly about it, because that's not the normative behavior here. And we want to kind of expand that. We've got, like Carolyn was mentioning, parks that host big events and things like that. We want to make sure that the people that are coming in, a wine and liquor company comes into a fall festival, or a cannabis vendor comes into, to set up a table at the beach concert or something like that. We are looking to to the commission to help us in setting those limits, and hopefully those limits are a step forward rather than kind of a status quo or a step back. We want to improve and make it more clear to people what kind of behavior is expected in parks. So that's a long-winded kind of a speech there, just to kind of let the commissioners know that we really would appreciate your help in raising the bar in terms of health related to various alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs in our parks.
Well, thank you, both of you. On that last slide, though, that was shown, I didn't notice that the city of Groton is smoke-free and alcohol-free, all of their parks, including the beach. So I was.
Yeah, so an
I was
ordinance.
wondering why- Pardon?
They do not have an ordinance, I believe, as far as I know, that was
Actually,
reported.
I was just looking at the ordinance.
Oh.
That's why I brought it up. But anyway, you might want to take a look at that and include that in it. But your presentation was very well received. Thank you so much. And as a former member of GASP, I, agree with everything that you're saying. So.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And one last little note, I did hear that the town council, I believe on the 26th, is going to be talking about a potential ban of using cannabis in public places. I did just hear that today. So that is coming down the pike, I believe. I don't know how it's gonna go, but that's another little thing I heard.
Great.
Dom, if I may also, just to add on to the difference, the discussion about park rules or ordinances. Right now, the no smoking around playgrounds and where children are present is a park rule. It's not an ordinance. It's not enforceable by law. So that even the rules that we have don't carry they're unenforceable. So, even if we choose to go the route, if the commission were to say, hey, we're going to make it a park rule to make parks smoke free, there's still another step where we could use the commission's advocacy to go to the council and say, look, this is something that we would like to make enforceable. We want an ordinance in place that confirms the community norms. So, just kind of on the hierarchy, we got some park rules here, but there's also an ordinance that becomes enforceable. That's a higher level and it takes more effort. But certainly whatever progress we make with the commission here, whatever, the commission decides to do in terms of strengthening our rules or advocating for ordinances is certainly something we would appreciate.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
Jerry, I had one question. My memory is kind of fuzzy, but the 4th of July parade, was there not a unit of cannabis in that parade? One of the commercial providers?
I mean, yeah, I think I would have taken note of that. I planned the parade, so I don't recall
I
anybody.
know, that's why I'm asking.
There may have been somebody in the parade that kind of, and just as an example, Joe Dela Cruz, for example. Joe Dela Cruz, he's a a state representative. He's kind of a founding member of Community Speaks Out. He's got his company, the Hillary Company or whatever, and he's he's probably some kind of a youth sport person too. So I mean, he's wearing different hats. So sometimes in the parade, I'm not going to say that there wasn't anybody in the parade who might not have had something to do with the cannabis industry, but certainly the name of the group that was signed up to be in the parade was not related to that. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Again, thank you both for sharing, and we will do our best to advocate for an ordinance for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Now,
Okay.
Mark, did you want me to hang around for athletic fields?
well, other than to say that there's a presentation on the 26th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
All
night.
right. Good night,
Good night,
Jerry.
Jerry.
Thank you again, Jerry. Okay, so any
Dom,
yes.
could we go back to the minutes? I'm not sure that there was a motion, a first and a second. I don't know if Fran caught that or not. So if we could just go back to the approval of the June minutes.
You got it. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the June minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as amended for June.
I'll second.
Thank you. Citizens petitions and comments. Any questions or concerns? No?
I
Town
guess
council referrals.
I'm sorry, I didn't unmute soon enough. Question about what the policies are at the community center regarding COVID precautions right now. Are masks still required? I know there's a lot of signage outside the senior center, but there was some question about what's going on at the community center.
Yeah, I believe there's signs up at the community center also, and masks are required indoors, no matter what the activity. The town manager is monitoring where we are as far as being in the, red, orange, and yellow. Last week, I haven't looked this week, but the report from last week, we were in the orange. We had been in the red. He's looking for us to get back into the yellow, which I believe is 5 cases or less per 100,000. And when that happens and we're able to sustain that for a period of time, he didn't elaborate on how long that would be, that we would he would lift the current mask requirement mandate in Groton. He is hopeful that the numbers will drop once children ages 5 to 11 are able to get vaccinated. I did look at a report on the Connecticut, on the state website, I think the Department of Health, and there was like a 50-50 split. That's 50% of the people that are contracting COVID are under the age of 30. So, if we see that the 5 to 11s be able to get a shot, and hopefully the number or percentage of people that make that decision to do that is high enough so that it will have an impact and bring the overall COVID rate down, and we'll be able to go back to not wearing a mask indoors. It certainly is hurting our programs. When the mask mandate was re-implemented towards the end of the summer, the number of participants going to senior center programs dropped again. We had exercise classes where we had 40 people in it, and as soon as they were required to wear a mask indoors, the numbers dropped down almost half. So it's not only impacting the senior center, but it's impacting the programs at the community center too, because some people just, and understandably so, don't want to exercise with a mask on. But we're doing what we can to encourage people to be healthy, and hopefully we'll get through this sooner rather than later.
Thank you. And who's responsible for enforcing the masking policy at the community center?
We have a building monitor there, and if people are not wearing the mask, they politely offer them a mask, because some people, and I've done it myself, not at the community center, but, forgotten a mask and walked in and like, and so we have masks available for folks. And then, if they refuse, we politely ask them to wear the mask or to wait outside. And I have not been made aware of any issues with people refusing to wear masks.
Okay, and is there an instructor exception like there is in the schools where the person teaching the class can have their mask off while they're teaching?
No, I believe the instructors all have to have their masks on too. And we're still having programs out. We've moved some programs outside, like some of the exercise classes at the senior center are out in the hockey rink on nice days, but it's going to be more of a challenge to do that when it's 45 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you. I don't know if are all the instructors aware of the policy and that the masks need to remain on once they get to the exercise rooms and out of the hallway in the location?
They should be, yeah.
It might be worth sending a reminder.
Okay, so I'm taking it that you've seen an instructor without a mask on while they're teaching?
We can talk later.
Okay.
Okay, any other correspondence or communication? Reports. Mark,
Yes.
would you like to?
Sure. So in addition to the report that was included in the packet, I did want to let folks know that there is a ribbon cutting event next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And this is for the footbridge that was built across Fishtown Brook out behind the Mystic River Magnet School. So there has been a gap in the Crosstown Trail, which starts all the way at Bluff Point and goes to Town's End, which is an Avalonia-owned piece of property. It's a 6-mile trail. And there was a bridge at one time. Well, before I got here, I couldn't even tell you how many years ago, and I think it got washed away. And there was attempts to build temporary bridges. And when the school project was started, we reached out to the Trails Coordinating Task Force, reached out to the Permanent School Building Committee and asked them to consider that if there was money available for the replacement of that footbridge, if they would consider adding that into the scope of the project. As they reviewed their budget, they saw that they did have money available, and it was supported by the Permanent School Building Committee, by the principal, by the Director of Buildings and Services. So they did town engineer designed the bridge, and the contractor that was responsible for constructing the school built the footbridge. It was completed maybe about 3 weeks ago, and we're having a ribbon cutting event on, like I said, Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So it's the folks at the Trails Coordinating Task Force are pretty excited, and it now provides benefits to the students. The kids at the school can now get into BB Pond Park and perhaps do some environmental education without having to walk out onto into the next neighborhood. And it's also provides a safe way for kids from the neighborhood to get access to the school. And it's also a second egress. If there was an event on Fishtown Road, it would allow the students kind of a safe exit out of the school property, a second exit. So that's coming up on, again, on the 19th at 5 o'clock. I did want to share with you something that you may have already seen next Tuesday night. Well, actually, next Tuesday during the day from 1 to 3 at Groton City Hall, there is an opportunity to share with the, I know it's the planning department in the town, and I'm assuming it's the planning department over in the city. Your thoughts and opinions on how the ARPA money should be spent, and that's the recovery money that the town has been allocated, I think 8.5 million. Some of that money has already been allocated. Some of it went to Ledgelight Health District. Some of it's gone to social services. But there is a sizable chunk of money, I think maybe 7.5 million, that the planning department is interested in hearing how people want to see that money used. And there's a number of different, they're calling them buckets. One of the buckets is infrastructure, and Parks and Recreation is part of that infrastructure bucket. We have been putting up social media posts reminding folks of how Parks and Recreation contributed to the community during the pandemic. We saw a huge increase in people using the walking paths, going out on the trails. They were outside doing different activities. Pickleball moved outside and they were playing. And we've compiled a list of potential projects. And let me see if I can share this. Let's see. It is on our website, the full list of projects. And so I would encourage folks next Tuesday to go out either to Groton City Hall from 1 to 3 or to the Groton Senior Center from 6:30 to 8:30 and advocate for some of the money to be dedicated to making improvements to Parks and Recreation facilities.
What were those locations again? And both at the same time?
No, the one in the city is from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, and the other at the Senior Center is from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And there'll be folks from the planning department there that will be, I think they're going to have like 3 stations set up. One's going to be a map of the town, and you can kind of identify areas where you think improvements ought to be made. There'll be another station where you can, there'll be like Post-it notes, and you can write down things that you would like to see, the town invest in. And the Parks and Recreation Department has a list of potential projects on the website. And every time we do a social media post, we are including that link so people can go and see the list. And some of those include the court behind the community center. We want to get that repainted, and basketball and pickleball court lines put down. We want to redo the surface at the hockey rink. And we want to widen the walking path at Peconic Plains and put in lighting so that we can extend the use. We saw a tremendous increase in the use of Peconic Plains in that walking path. And there's a number of other projects, reinvesting in the skate park in Sutton, and there's 4 or 5 other projects. So I would encourage you to reach out to all of your contacts and ask that this is a great opportunity for those that believe in what our department is trying to do to try to advocate for us to get some money. I think in Ledyard, the council committed $400,000 to investments in parks and recreation, and that was redoing some basketball and tennis courts. So I'm hoping that Groton will make that investment or even more in some of the facilities that have been neglected over the years.
Okay, and what's the date for that?
It's Tuesday, October 19th.
It's gonna be a busy day.
It could be, yes.
Same
Yeah.
day. So
Yep.
October
Market-
19th, the senior center, 6:30 to 8:30, and where in Groton City is it? The municipal building?
Groton City Hall, yes, from
Great.
1 to 3. Yep.
Thank you.
Mark, I looked at the list online and I had a couple of questions. The first
Sure.
was, the tent that's listed for the senior center, what happened to the tent that was installed this past summer and then disappeared?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we got a grant for that, but that's not a commercial grade tent. And we're looking to replace that with a commercial grade tent. The size of that tent required us to have, in order to meet fire code, there was some things that we had to do. One was the shell of the tent needed to have fire retardant on it, and it does not. And when you get above a certain square footage, you're required to meet these fire code requirements, and that material did not have fire retardant on it. And that's primarily the reason that we're not using it right now.
I knew there was a fire safety
Yes.
issue. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, I don't see any reference to the athletic fields on the list. Is that because it's such a separate, there's so many needs
Right.
regarding the athletic fields?
Right. Yeah, at this time, we don't have a price for what it's going to be. So it would be difficult to say, we want X for athletic fields when we don't have any idea how much it's going to be.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
check.
Yep.
All right. And has your department or your team put any kind of priority on any of those items on the list? And if you were asked to prioritize them, could you?
Yeah, we certainly could. I think it would depend on how much we were able to, how much was allocated towards the department. We would be able to prioritize that list.
I guess I'm asking because I'm trying to figure out which one I should hit people over the head with.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we're actually working on an email. I think I sent that to everybody this afternoon, that we were going to do a bulk email, and we did identify 3 different projects, one being the walkway around Peconic Plains Park. The second one was both the court behind the community center, and
Mhm.
also the hockey rink. And the third project was
Splash pad.
no. Oh, wait. The skate park.
Skate park.
Yep. Yeah, so it was the walking path, the community center court and hockey rink, and the Groton skate park.
1 and 2, I'd already kind of figured out for myself, so that's good.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So where are we? We are,
Golf course?
golf course.
Yes. So golf course play remains strong, seasonally adjusted. So we are, because it's not dark until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night now. Golfers can't get on the course after work and get in a good round of golf. So after about 2:30, play has dropped off, just because by 6:30 it's so dark that you can't really play. But we are, last year we had our best year in at least the last 10 years, and we're still trending ahead of last year, which is incredible. So those are all good signs for the golf course.
Trails Coordinating Task Force.
We did have a meeting in September. We met with the new GIS coordinator, Noah Feldman, and he is talked to the Trails Coordinating Task Force about updating the current town trails webpage. That was originally developed about 7 or 8 years ago with from the previous GIS coordinator. And Noah is actually putting together 3 different style types that he's going to show to us at the December meeting. And we will be able to kind of review that and figure out which style we think will be the easiest for people to utilize. And then he'll start the progression of updating the Trails webpage that we have. So we're looking forward to that.
Mark, over near the Marriott, there's
Yes.
a state property. If you're going north past the Marriott, you go take a right on the road adjacent to their parking lot. You go down,
Okay.
you go down 2 or 3/10 of a mile. On the left, there's a trail that we walked today, and it says state property. I was just wondering if Groton rec has anything to do with the state.
No, not with that particular trail. We don't.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. We are hopeful that Groton Utilities will, and they have started discussions with Tri-Town Trails and they actually met, I think we met with them during the summer to talk about a trail running along that road, I think just outside the fence that runs along the utility there or the reservoir, and actually connecting into the COP property, which is just further down the road. And the COP board has said that they're supportive of the idea. And I know that Groton Utilities has done some hikes out there to look for a suitable spot for the trail to transition from Groton Utilities property onto the COP property. So That's all very encouraging, because for a while there was not really any discussion about putting a trail, locating a trail on the property, but they have started discussions about that and are looking at options. So we are encouraged by that. So that would be close to where you're talking about, but not exactly. Yeah.
That's great. There's a hike tomorrow, I guess, someone from around the reservoir, that someone from the senior center is leading.
Oh, yeah, we do. That's part of the OATS, the Outdoor Adventure
Yes.
Traveling Seniors Program. Yeah,
Yeah.
they go for a hike almost every month
Yeah.
in different locations. And Groton Utilities has been very open and receptive to having groups, to have that group, hike around the reservoir.
Yeah, that's great. That's a start, right?
It is, yes. Yeah, exactly.
I'll be honest, we've always wanted to hike around the
Okay.
reservoir, especially this time
Athletic-
of year. It's beautiful.
It
Oh,
is, yeah. Yeah. Well, we could certainly look into trying to arrange something for you non-seniors. I'll make a note of that. See if we can do something.
Thank you.
Well, Don, I wasn't referring to you when I said non-seniors.
I know whether to be encouraged or.
All right. Let's see. Athletic Fields Task Force.
Yep.
I think that's next. So
Yeah.
the Athletic Fields Task Force, and Jerry kind of mentioned this, they are going to the council to make a presentation on the 26th. They're going to present, I think, 3 different options that the landscape architect has been working on. There's going to be some discussion. The planning department is looking for some guidance and to have a discussion about the possibility of putting some mixed use right along that drive into the intersection there at 117. So kind of right where the Clodchester School is there, they at least want to have a discussion about the possibility of looking at some mixed use. So it would be businesses down below, residents up above. And I think that's part of one of the proposals that they're going to be, that they are going to be presenting and discussing, just to get the council's kind of feedback. It could potentially impact the number of fields, but it also might provide a revenue source to help offset some of the costs that would be associated with tearing the Clodchester building down and constructing fields. So they just want to get a sense from the council what their wish is moving forward, and that council's decision would impact the RFP that the task force is trying to put together, because if they decide, well, yes, we're going to allow some mixed use along that area, like I said, it impacts the number of fields, and that would have to be accounted for in the RFP that would be going out. So that's on the 26th.
Okay. Agency accreditation.
So I got real nervous yesterday because I got an email from CAPRA, who is the kind of overarching organization. They said, Mark, you're scheduled to be go through the agency accreditation review process in 2022. You need to give us a date of when you want us to come visit. So we've got a meeting on Monday with the folks that have been inputting all the information to find out exactly where the holes are, and based on that and whatever work we have to finalize to get this done, we'll be sending out a couple of date requests to have either a virtual or an in-person visit. I'm not sure that they've made that decision yet. Coming up sometime between March and June. So as soon as we have those dates, I will let you folks know. But yeah, all of a sudden it got very real. It's like, uh-oh. Not that we haven't been working hard. You know, we've all been working hard towards this, but now, you know, there's a date that we've got to commit to and be ready for. So, and all of the work has to get submitted, I think, 10 weeks before. So so an inspection in March, you go February, January, you know, everything would have to be
2.5
done
months ahead of time.
2.5 months ahead of time. So, you know, we're already into the middle of October. So, you know, the window's getting shorter if we chose to go in March. So we'll have a
Right.
better idea after Monday's meeting.
Well, good luck there.
Thanks.
The Pratt Recreation Building.
Yeah, I've got really no report, and I probably will, in the next agenda packet, just drop this from the list, because
Okay.
I don't think it's going anywhere, and there's no sense in me saying no report every month.
Okay. All right, well, we go to the Kolnaski Conservation Area renaming.
Yeah, so the Groton Conservation Advocates proposed a name change. Oh, I think back in June, maybe. And they presented to, well, yeah, it must have been in June, right? Because they presented a name change, and it was the
Sassacus.
Birch Plain Creek.
Yeah.
Yes,
I feel like it was
conservation
probably
area.
Before that too.
Was it before that?
That might have been in May. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
So I was trying to remember.
Okay, it was a while ago, and I think this commission wisely guided them and suggested that perhaps they go back and think of another name, because there's a Birch Plain Creek Park in the city, and it would just be kind of confusing. So they did reach out to, and during the course of that meeting, I think Angela suggested that they reach out to the Massatucket, which they did. The Massatucket were, and I included the letter from them. They were very thankful that we had reached out to them. They did some research and provided a suggested name, and are looking for the Parks and Rec Commission to endorse that name. The next step would be go to the council. That's kind of the process that takes place when you're renaming a parcel. And so the proposed name is the Sassacus Nature Preserve. I know the Conservation Committee has supported this, their suggested name, but it's really up to the Parks and Rec Commission to make a decision about whether they want to make that recommendation. And then I would go to the council on the 26th and make that recommendation that the council accept that name change.
So is that the Mohegan tribe that is recommending that, or is that the Mashantuckets?
Yeah, that's the Massatuckets, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, and they had I think I provided a letter and kind of an explanation of who this particular chief was, and
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the renaming of the Kolnaski Conservation Area to the Sassacus Nature Preserve.
I'll second that motion.
all right, any discussion?
Nope, I think it sounds like a good idea for me.
So
Okay.
moved.
All right.
So how does that get, how do we write a letter? What?
Well,
what's the
I've already drafted a referral. I was kind of just waiting until the council made their decision, so I will finish that referral and send it to the council along with the letter from the Sassacus. Well, both documents. I'll include that with the referral, and then I'll also ask a representative from the Groton Conservation Advocate Group to attend the meeting in case there's any questions about why they feel that that's a good name for it.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I'll take care of all that.
What is
Thank
the
you.
full name? Sassacus Nature Preserve?
Yes, yep.
By the way, the Oats group that Mark was talking about earlier had a walk through there with Sue Sutherland. And it is on Facebook, and it's very interesting to see the space she walked them through. The trail is still pretty rough, but it's a very interesting video to watch.
All right.
Yes, there are a lot of unique features in that area. Some big rock outcroppings and a lot of interesting environment or natural resources in that area.
Okay, moving right along, the succession plan.
Hopefully, I've got all the math straightened out. Thank you, Fran, for looking at it and catching a few things. And so this is part of the agency accreditation. I think this has gone in front of the commission a couple of times, and there was, I think Elizabeth caught some mistakes and Fran has caught some mistakes, but I fingers crossed, and Fran's shaking her head yes. So I think I've got everything at this point.
Math looked good to me. I didn't notice anything in the script, but Elizabeth is grimacing.
Oh, no.
They're small. They're
Okay.
small, Mark.
All right. Is it something we can approve as amended?
Yes, I think so. I don't think there was anything that, they're really just small edits, but things I think you want to make a change. And it's
Okay.
clear to me that you've done a lot of work on this.
Well, I've certainly done a lot of editing, but that's
Oh.
good. I appreciate all the input that you've provided us or provided me.
I do have one question, and the last page of this document has a chart, which I can't figure out where it fits. It's on page 17.
Oh. Yeah, that should not be there.
I
That
didn't think so.
That belongs. Is it labeled? Oh, it's not even labeled. Huh. For table 1, table 2, table 3. Huh.
That's a good point, Elizabeth. It looks like somebody was maybe working something out and then just didn't place it where it belonged. Like it just needs
That's
to
what I
be.
was thinking, but I couldn't quite figure out where it was. If you look at page 2,
Yeah, you know what, Elizabeth, I think it's table 1, but somehow, because the information is years work by position. Yeah, it's the information on page 2, table 1 is correct. That somehow is an older version that ended up at the end of the document, and it shouldn't be there at all.
so that can just be deleted.
Yes.
All right, great.
Yep.
And the one other On page 13,
Okay,
on that table, that program management section is repeated.
oh, right, okay, yep. Okay. Well, those are simple.
And the last one is you probably want to take your name off page 5 at the bottom
Yes, okay,
and add in director, I assume, as the title.
yep. Okay. Is that it?
Any other questions, concerns?
Just a question, I don't know, like on page 4, what all those X's mean. Is that supposed to be a number of positions?
Person's name. Person's
Oh,
name.
okay.
Yeah.
Might take them out, I don't know. And then this will, I swear this will be the last one.
Okay,
On page 8,
yes,
middle of the page where it's budget finance.
okay,
The second line, you refer to city, county. I would suggest striking that and turning it into town.
okay,
And under business acumen, again, city, county, strike it, make it town.
okay. Is that it?
Really honest.
Okay,
I make a motion.
Good work, Elizabeth. The only thing I don't like about the plan is
Yep.
the name. I don't like the name. Succession plan. It's an evaluation plan. Isn't that what it is, an evaluation plan?
yes, that's part of it. The succession part comes from, you know, a person
I get
transitioning.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
I get that, every business, the district, every place has very competent people
yeah,
who can fill positions, but to imply a succession plan, when it really is an evaluation plan, and an evaluation plan, I don't know, I just don't like that name. But that's me, and that's my
Okay.
opinion, but
well, we could do a hybrid, like a succession evaluation.
no, just keep
Plan?
it the way it is. Just keep it
Okay.
the way it is. I mean, but it almost implies that, it almost implies that people we're not even looking outside. A succession plan is something, you know what I'm saying, Mark?
Sure, I do, and I think if you looked at table
And that's the only
4,
thing,
yeah. If you look at table 4,
I'm just saying the name.
sure,
Okay. That's all I'm talking about is the name.
okay, all right, because we do, in the document, we do refer to recruitment, so we're not
Yep,
saying that it's just internal, because you're absolutely right. It's going to be a mix.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
Okay, moving right along. Do we need to?
Did we get
Do
a
we need-
first and a second and an approval?
I'll second with the amendments.
Okay.
All in
All
favor?
right.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Administrative policies review.
Yeah, again, this is part of agency accreditation.
Yeah.
They want to see that that these policies have been reviewed. So some of these you all have looked at outside individually, but we did compile all of them together. So into one document, so that you could, look through this and there would be a record of discussion about these particular administrative policies. And I know there was a lot to read through.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that if we can answer any questions, that we could get this approved either at this meeting or a following meeting if there's issues that need to be addressed.
I didn't see anything of substance, just some format things.
Okay,
On the list of policies on the first page,
Yep.
under finance and business operations, you want to talk about use of contractors, not on contractors.
okay.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth, what page was that?
It's on the front page. And it's GPR 03.05. And it's use of contractors, not use on contractors. It's just a typo. And the other I saw was on page 8, GPR 04.02.
We should number the pages.
Yes, definitely. I
Yeah.
did that so I could find these.
Can
Yeah.
you say the code again? GPR?
04.02.
Okay.
And Mark, my reading this, it's a repeat of GPR 01.9. Is that intentional?
Well, it's a little, the titles are a little bit different, the effective.
But the contents appears to be
Oh,
the
the
same.
content looks exact, okay, let me check on that.
Because my one thought is if you have to have that title used in 4.02, then you could simply put C GPR 01.9 or something like that.
Yeah.
You could skip a little.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to
Okay.
have the heading.
right, yep, okay, good catch, Elizabeth, thank you.
And then the other was on page 10. At the top, the DEI commitment.
Yes,
Your coding needs to be corrected. It should be GPR 05.06.
oh, okay, instead of O's, there's one too many O's and it should be 5 instead of 6.
Instead of a 6, yeah.
So
Okay,
it should be GPR 05.06 on what page
Yeah.
was
Correct.
that?
Yes.
page 10,
DEI commitment at the near the top of that page.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So Mark, I gather we're going to look at that and vote on it next time.
yes, I will make those corrections and present it again next time.
Sounds good. Any new business?
Do we need to make a recommendation regarding the gas?
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, I think the the commission needs to, yes, make a decision about how they would like to proceed and what they would like to do.
I'm not understanding, Elizabeth. I didn't understand what your statement.
Having heard the presentation from Carolyn and Jerry regarding GASP and the request for support for an ordinance,
Okay.
I just wonder if we need to discuss that further, either tonight or at our next meeting. And I'm a little hesitant. I need to, I think, probably think about it a bit. But in our current environment, when there's so much pushback about vaccination and masks, I'm not too sure whether this is the right environment and time to propose a new ordinance. I'm just throwing that out there. And I'm no great supporter of smoking, believe me, but I think it's something we have to consider.
Yeah.
Is there anything the commission would like me to do in the interim as far as providing information that may help? Would you like to see sample ordinances, or, and I'm not, pushing that, I'm just throwing that out as I can try to pull together whatever information you all think might be helpful in making a decision.
Carolyn did list a group of local towns that have an ordinance. Let's see if I can find
Yes.
her presentation again. Too much paper.
Also, I'm curious, when an ordinance such as that is made, ordinances don't really, I think Jerry alluded to this, they don't do too much if there isn't some kind of plan in place to enforce them and make sure that, it's not just, put a speed limit sign up and there's never police there, people aren't going to follow it,
Right.
It's something we need to think about too, because we don't want to put ordinances in place without having some kind of plan for monitoring and enforcing.
Right, and we don't want to put any kind of undue burden on probably an already overworked police department, and Parks and Recreation certainly doesn't have the staff to put somebody in every park, and if somebody starts to light up, say, oh, no. Yeah, I mean, those are both good points.
An ordinance, which I assume would carry a fine, might serve as a mild deterrent to some people. But I agree with you. I think enforcement is a real issue.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can start out with something gentler and just put signage out that says it is suggested that you, in light of the fact that this is used for this, some kind of wording. Maybe we can see if other towns are doing that, saying, please don't smoke here. And perhaps that might do something along those lines, or vaping, that kind of thing. Just to put out there that it's not the best environment to do it, but without putting on an ordinance at this point, given the things Elizabeth was saying. Just an idea.
Yeah. Well, we might get a clearer picture of what it sounds like the council is going to have a discussion on the night of the 26th. So we may have a better idea at our November meeting of which way the council is leading, and they actually may take the lead on this, and it may not take any type of action from the Parks and Recreation Department.
I think maybe based on that, Mark, I'd like to take you up on your offer to locate a couple of sample, if it looks like it's going to come back to the commission. I'm thinking East Lyme and maybe Ledyard, because they're relatively close communities to us.
Yep. Okay.
I just sent everybody in our commission city ordinance, the city of Groton's ordinance.
Okay, thanks.
You're
Oh, good.
welcome.
That's right. You mentioned they weren't listed here, but they have one. Yeah.
Okay, shall we move ahead? The Parks and Rec substance abuse policy.
Yeah, that was the presentation from Ledgely.
Okay, great.
So the-
And next meeting.
November 10th.
Okey dokey. It's good seeing you all.
Yes. Oh, one more thing, I guess. So the council has moved back to in-person meetings. And so how does the commission feel about going back to in-person meetings?
I prefer this. It's much more doable for me. I'm not gonna lie. I probably wouldn't have made tonight's meeting if it were in person, because there are other meetings. I don't know if you can hear this going on in the background.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So this makes it possible for us to be where we need to be.
okay. It's, at some point, we may not have the option. Right now, I think the state is allowing hybrid meetings, virtual meetings and in person, but I'm not sure, but I suspect at some point we'll be going back to in person, but I don't know when.
I like the idea of in person. I'm not too wild about wearing a mask all the time.
Yep,
It's hard to understand.
right. Okay. All right. So then I guess we'll
Yeah,
continue.
I like the idea of the in-person as well, but I'll do the virtual
Okay.
until a certain time when the town says we need to be in person.
Okay. I mean, we do have the hybrid option. I did that last week for the Groton Parks Foundation. So we had some people in person and we had some people on a screen. So, you know, we can go that route also. If that's, and then that, I guess, Fran is comfortable and Tom and Elizabeth are comfortable. So we could, if you'd like, we can go that route.
I'm amenable, whatever.
Okay.
I will say, I mean, I don't know if we'll have choices. Like you said, it might be dictated what'll happen. But
Yeah.
from the experience of someone who tried to run many things in a hybrid situation, it is more difficult that way.
Yeah.
Because the people who are virtual really have trouble hearing what everyone is saying who's in person, unless
Sure.
everyone who's in person has a mic on too, but you can't all have your mics on in the same room because you'll get feedback. It's a
Right.
difficult situation to do the
Yeah.
hybrid. All one
Yeah.
or all the other is generally easier.
Okay. All right. Well,
I would agree with that as well. So
okay.
virtual it is.
All right. Good enough.
One last question. Any news on an applicant to join the commission?
Yeah, I think Elizabeth, I told you that we had somebody that was interested and I called her back and she had submitted her papers to run for the RTM. So, yeah, so, yeah, it was a fleeting opportunity of about 24 hours or 48 hours. And I wished her well. I hope she didn't. I said, I hope you don't get elected. And then, and then you can join the commission. So we'll have to see.
Okay,
No,
so
if
the
it-
next meeting is November 10th.
Yes.
And would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it then.
Good deal.
All right. All right.
All right.
Mark, can I give you a call real quick?
Sure. You have my work phone?
I don't know. What number did I call you at last time I talked to you?
Oh,
That was
goodness.
the number I have.
Well, I have one phone with me.
Bye,
and,
folks.
good night. And I have my other phone downstairs, so I'll run down and whatever phone rings, I'll answer.
Okay, thank
Because I
you.
don't, oh, actually, I think it was my work. Yeah, I think it was my work phone, but like I said, I'll just run downstairs and grab my other phone.
Sorry, I didn't mean it.
Oh,
I
no.
can call you another time too. I just figured I should explain some of my questioning, so I don't want you to
Yeah. No, I'd rather know now so that I don't spend half the night
just
like,
based on
what was
things that
Fran
I've heard
talking
about.
about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I'll talk to you in a minute.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
All righty.
See you
Bye.
later, though.